Hakeem Femi Gbajabiamila. God bless you all.
The 2023 budget is a modest budget.
Lawmakers laud 2023 budget. Describe it as modest but far-reaching.
We do not stop or put a stop to this trend. Maybe we don't know what will happen in the future.
And House calls for investigation of frequent collapse of national grid. It's good to be with you on another fresh package of your weekly legislative program, House Ticket. My name is Dihelia Mamza, your guide. Our major story on the program today is the budget presentation by the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. We also have our usual review of bills and motions that came up on the floor of the House in the last 1 week. Join me for all of these reports after this short break. Please stay tuned.
The entire purpose of the legislative agenda is to direct our legislative resources and efforts in a coordinated effort to ensure the well-being of the individual in a life of safety and freedom. That is a high ambition, but it's well worth the effort. We have passed landmark legislation to fix our oil and gas industry, reform the police, and reorganize the corporate administration system in our country. We have considered and passed meaningful legislation that impacts all areas of our national life.
Thanks for staying tuned. President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday, 7th October 2022 presented the 2023 budget to a joint session of the National Assembly titled Budget of Fiscal Consolidation and Transition. The President highlighted the parameters on which the budget was predicated as well as challenges confronting implementation. Let's have the report as compiled and presented from our studio.
And final budget of this administration.
While presenting the budget, the President put the total budget estimate for 2023 at 20.51 trillion naira. He gave a breakdown of the budget.
The proposed 24.15 trillion naira 2023 expenditure comprises A. Statutory transfers of 744.1 billion naira. B. Non-debt recurrent costs of 8.27 trillion naira. C. Personal costs of 4.9 trillion naira. D. Pensions, gratuities, and retirees benefits of 854.8 billion naira. E. Overheads of 1.1 trillion naira. F. Capital expenditure of 5.35 trillion naira, including the capital component of statutory transfers. G. Debt service of 6.31 trillion naira. And H. Sinking fund of 247.73 billion naira to retire certain maturing bonds.
He noted that the 2023 budget proposal reflects the serious challenges facing the country.
The 2023 budget proposal is the 8th and final budget of this administration. It reflects the serious challenges currently facing our country, key reforms necessary to address them, and imperatives to achieve higher, more inclusive, diversified, and sustainable growth.
On the 2023 budget parameters and fiscal assumptions, the President had this to say.
The 2023 to 2025 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper sets out the parameters for the 2023 budget as follows. A. Oil price benchmark of 70 United States dollars per barrel. B. Daily oil production estimate of 1.69 million barrels, inclusive condensates, and of 300,000 to 400,000 barrels per day. C. Exchange rate of 435.57 naira per United States dollar. And D. Projected GDP growth rate of 3.75% and 17.16% inflation rate.
And human capital development are the priorities we have pursued.
Giving his remarks at the budget presentation, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, said that the 2023 budget will be a budget of consolidation, as it offers the best opportunity to ensure that ongoing projects across the country are completed before the end of the current administration.
Of course, government is a continuum, and it will fall to our successors in office to continue the development initiatives of this administration and see them to completion. However, though governance continues despite government changes, priorities may not remain the same. As such, we must endeavor to see to it that the priorities and projects we have prioritized are adequately funded and fully implemented as we continue to do the work we have been elected to do until the last moment of our tenure.
The Speaker said the House is worried about the reports of a massive decline in the volume of crude oil exports due primarily to theft and diversion by criminal elements. He added that the position of the House is that oil theft and diversion constitute treason against the country, while those involved and their enablers must be held accountable to the fullest extent permitted by the law.
Nigerians no longer want to hear about crude oil theft. The question has now become, what are we doing about it? Therefore, we are urging a swift and systemic overhaul of the systems in place to protect the country's oil and gas resources. Evidently, the arrangements in place are no longer adequate. As such, there is an obvious need for improvements to stop the loss of income occasioned by this ongoing sabotage.
The Speaker noted that the National Assembly expects thorough accounting for previous appropriations, disbursements and expenditures from heads of ministries, departments and executives of agencies as they consider this 2023 appropriation bill.
Where such accounts are not forthcoming, we will demand them. And we will exercise the full authority of Parliament to hold to account those who fail to provide the records we need to make informed decisions on the appropriation bill.
I will seize this opportunity to commend the 9th...
Speaking earlier while giving the welcome address, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan commended the 9th Assembly and the executive arm of government for a productive partnership and collaboration that has helped to ensure the return of the budget cycle from January to December.
Your Excellency, last year, Thursday, 7th October 2021, you laid before this August Assembly the 2022 appropriation bill, which was the third in the life of this 9th National Assembly. Today, history is repeating itself. 7th October, the same date, 2022, as last year, you will be laying the 2023 appropriation bill. I commend you, therefore, for being timely every year in the last 3 years to allow the National Assembly to work on the bill in good time for the new year.
Just as the Speaker, the Senate President expressed his concerns about oil thieves.
Mr. President, I consider the oil thieves the worst enemies of our country. The thieves have declared war on our country and our people. I strongly feel that we need to take the necessary measures to stop the thieves immediately. Otherwise, our economy will be completely devastated. Also, our efforts to provide the necessary infrastructure and diversification of the economy would both be thwarted. It is time to take drastic and desperate measures against the thieves.
Meanwhile, lawmakers also shared their thoughts on the 2023 appropriation bill after it was presented by the President.
The 2023 budget is a modest budget that seeks to address the challenges of ongoing projects, the government intends mainly to continue and complete its ongoing projects. The main challenge that we have noted from Mr. President's speech is the revenue shortfall we have as a nation. Every sector is impacted because Nigeria is not able to derive as much revenue from oil and gas. So that makes it mandatory for us to look inwards and diversify the economy.
When you talk about economic realities, it's also important to make sure that this budget, carries along the issue of local content so that our money will stay here, so that most of them will not go outside the country. That way it will stimulate the economy and make sure that local industries will have a new blood to be able to survive, because that is the only way we will survive as a nation, when we begin to buy our own products, and you cannot buy what you don't produce, if you really want to grow as a nation. So that is what we'll be looking at.
It represents a lot because we have a lot of expectation in the budget, especially I'm from Kano State. One of the critical infrastructure Mr. President mentioned is the road from Abuja to Kano, which is one of the important roads in this country because it's the only road that links the northern part and the southern part.
I believe that what we should do moving forward is to make sure that we begin to call people to order, those people who are derailing the progress of this country. We should begin to work effectively to make sure that we track all our funds. And as they come to defend their projects, they should also come with their documents and proof that of all their expenditure in the past years. Because you don't tell us that we shouldn't ask questions. Committees will ask questions. And those questions, we are expecting that they provide answers. And once they provide answers, like the President said, that they don't want people to, they don't want committees to be tinkering with budgets. Committees will always tinker when they find out that people are around tripping.
The budget is a budget of transition, and it's a good budget. You could hear from the President speaking through the budget what we have been able to achieve in good faith and our shortcomings in the past years, that this budget will take care of so many of it. And by His grace, He said banditry will be a thing of the past before the expiration of this tenure.
You're watching House Tickets. Away from the presentation of the budget, the House last week considered bills, motions and other matters of urgent public importance alongside personal explanations. The need to investigate the frequent collapse of the national grid, to recognize the contribution of teachers were among some of the issues raised. The report as compiled is presented from our studio.
On Tuesday, 4th October 2022, Representative Sani Bala moved a motion on the matters of urgent public importance on the need to investigate the frequent collapse of the national grid. In leading the debate, Representative Sani Bala expressed worry about the harm caused to electricity consumers due to the frequent power outages and hours of darkness caused by the collapse of the national grid. His motion received support.
From January to today, I think we had more than 8 times when, if you compare it to what happened last year, it was just 3. So we don't know if we do not put a stop to this trend, maybe we don't know what will happen in the future. So that is why the transmission company need to be investigated on their capacity to even handle the transmission of power to various distribution stations. So I think the motion is self-explanatory.
As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, I think the essence of this investigation should go to finding what we can do as a country to cure the issues of power generation, transmission, and distribution.
There were several prayers on the motion, amongst which are a call on the House Committee on Power to investigate the inability of the transmission companies of Nigeria to meet the power needs of Nigerians, a call on Parliament as the people's representatives to ensure this is dealt with for the interest of the people. The motion was voted on and adopted. Representative Dachung Bagos rose on a matter of personal explanation on the need to recognize Nigerian teachers in light of the celebration of World Teachers' Day.
Most of us became who we are today as a result of sacrifice of teachers that have sacrificed to teach us, our children, and preparing the next generation. Not only that, Mr. Speaker, we cannot count the number of members out of the 360 members we have here that are teachers that came from the classroom to this very important hallowed chamber.
This house has done sufficiently well and is doing a lot for teachers. I recall we amended the provisions for retirement age of teachers by upgrading the number of years for them to be in service. The Parliament have done so much. I didn't hear you recognize that one. And I didn't want him to just pick on the House. That's why I was insisting to speak. That the House has done much and is doing a lot. They have intervened in many issues, including now the ASU strike, which is part of the teaching profession.
They ought to be celebrated. And it is our duty as members of the Parliament to, as we review other benefits for the security agencies of this country and the health sector of this country, to look at the teachers. Some of them are teaching students who are sitting on the floor, and sometimes they don't have desks and chairs. I've visited them. In my course of needs analysis, Mr. Speaker, what I saw amazed me. And they have refused to leave the classroom blocks, despite all odds.
There can never be any development in the education sector without looking at the teacher. He is or she the primary, target. Without teachers, we couldn't have been here. Without teachers, we couldn't have had, the nation coming to this level. Mr. Speaker, on a personal, note, how do we celebrate them? Let us appreciate them, whether they are alive or not. Please, all of us should appreciate our teachers.
Mr. Speaker, in aligning myself with the thoughts of Sister Aisha Duku, and in espousing the theme of today's celebration of teachers, which is the transformation of education begins with teachers. It went further to say that this day is to celebrate the transformation and the critical role that teachers play in growing learners' potentials. And I think that's the whole essence of today. That we should celebrate the transformation and critical role that they play in growing learners' potentials.
I would like to say, as an institution, we should celebrate all the teachers that we might have lost during the banditry attack, the train attack, the schools attack, all the teachers that we might have lost. We celebrate them at death and we say, may their souls rest in perfect peace. As a daughter of a teacher, Mr. Speaker, when I was in school, at the secondary school, my best subject was geography. And my teacher, Mr. Remu, I'm sure maybe he's listening to me today, I'm sure he will be proud of me. And as we grew up in life, even to the university level, to become an administrator for excellence in which we are today and making impact at our little community, I celebrate all the teachers from the toddler till the university.
Moving on, some bills were presented for first reading, namely, Federal College of Nursing and Midwifery, Lapai, Niger State Establishment Bill 2022, sponsored by Representative Abdullahi Mahmudu. National College of Laboratory Technology, Health Sciences and Medical Imaging Agai, Niger State Establishment Bill 2022, sponsored by Representative Abdullahi Mahmudu. Chartered Nigerian Institute for Industrial Security Establishment Bill 2022, sponsored by Representative Gogo Bright Damono. Quite a number of bills also came up at second reading, amongst which are a bill for an act to amend the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act 2004, and for related matters, sponsored by Representative Nkeruka Onyejiocha, Representative Solomon T. Bob, Representative Obinna Chidoka, Representative Osai Nicholas Osai, Representative Olajide Olatubosun, Representative Ben Rowlands Igbakpa, and Representative Tasir Olawale Raji.
This bill now is meant to arrest a situation where a governor or president can, through the instrumentality of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, bring a purported judicial process to remove a head of court or in fact any judicial officer for that matter from office without having gone through the requirements of section 292 that mandates only an address from legislative assembly has been the basis upon which a man can move from office. Now, it's under such a removal that the officer in question can be tried by a court of law. So we want to obviate a situation where what happened can happen again. And now we are also trying to, under section 20, or create a new section 20, that clothes this tribunal with the status of a superior court of record.
The bill was voted on, approved for second reading, and referred to the House Committee on Anti-Corruption. Other bills that were debated at second reading include a bill for an act to establish Federal Medical Center, Ejigbo, Lagos State, to provide for legal framework for the administration and management of the center and for related matters, sponsored by Representative Ganiu Abiodun Johnson. A bill for an act to amend the National Agricultural Land Development Authority Act 2004 for the purpose of managing and developing farm settlements, increasing membership of the governing board, expanding functions, and for related matters, sponsored by Representative Adejare Samuel Babatunde. The bills were voted on, approved for second reading, and referred to the relevant House committees for further work.
I rise to move.
On motions scheduled on the order paper last week, the House considered the need to rehabilitate Ojakpata, Angpa, Ibana-Okpo field portion of Itobe, and Yigba, Otupa Federal Highway, sponsored by Representative Abdullahi Ibrahim.
The House recalls that the administration of former military President General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida initiated and constructed the Itobe, Anyigba, and Otupa Federal Highway in 1986, linking part of the North Central to the entire southeastern states and the South-South geopolitical zone of Nigeria. Note that since the construction of the road, major rehabilitation work was carried out by late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua administration, neglecting the Ojakpata, Angpa, and Ibana-Okpo road, which falls within the Angpa Federal constituency, thus leaving the road in a state of disrepair, causing accidents and untold hardship to road users.
The resolutions taken on the motion were to urge the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, in collaboration with the Federal Road Maintenance Agency FEMA, to rehabilitate the road to prevent hardship and multiple auto crash on the road, and mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure implementation. Another motion that came up was on the need to reconstruct Warri Sapele Benin Road and Sapele Amupe to Agbo Road in Delta State, sponsored by Representative Anthony Afe and Representative Ben Rowlands Ibakpa.
The importance of road infrastructure in socio-economic development cannot be overemphasized. Hence the need to reconstruct the Palos Warri Sapele Benin Road and Sapele Agbo Amupe to Agbo Road that serves Edo, Delta, Bayelsa, and Rivers State with other South-South oil-producing states in particular and Nigeria generally. Also note that the major roads of about 104.5 kilometer distance was constructed 27 years ago and is the most preferred route for articulated vehicle used for oil and gas haulage, operating from Delta State to other parts of Nigeria.
The House, in its resolution, urged the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing to embark on the reconstruction of the road. Also urged the Inspector General of Police to deploy more police officers to the affected roads to protect citizens from being attacked. The House then mandated the Committee on Works and that of Police Affairs to ensure compliance.
Time to draw the curtains on the program. Do keep watching House Ticket on NTA Parliament for update on legislative activities of members of the 9th House of Representatives. God bless Nigeria.